Hey, Rick.
Hey, Jen.
What are you listening to this week? Welcome to Season 7 of What Are You Listening To? The weekly podcast created to foster community through music by sharing the stories behind the songs that soundtrack our lives. Some of the songs are old, some new, all good. I'm Jenn Tully, and this week we are bringing you a new segment that will feature throughout Season 7. It's called WAYLT Superfan. WAYLT Superfan episodes focus on the you in What Are You Listening To? So this season, not only will I be chatting with musicians, bands, creators, community leaders, and some of my favorite guests from past seasons, I'll also be speaking with fellow music lovers and superfans. For Superfan episodes, the guest gets all 4 song picks. Through these 4 songs, superfans will walk us through why they love a particular artist, and will leave each superfan episode with a 4-song playlist that they'd recommend to someone who was new to the artist that they hold near and dear. This week, my guest and superfan is Rick Shirley. Rick has seen the artist that we are going to talk about today 7 times in the last year and a half, including a couple of meet and greets, destination concerts, and a once-in-a-lifetime experience to attend a live concert recording at the Coliseum in Rome. Which artists do you think we're going to discuss? Tune into our conversation to find out. And as I promised in the beginning, we'll publish a playlist with the episode so you don't miss a beat. With that, let's get started. I think I've sufficiently built the suspense. So, Rick, who is the artist you're going to share with us for this episode of WAYLT Superfan?
Well, thank you, Jen, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be with you. I love WAYLT, the name. I think that's fantastic. But the artist that
you.
I want to talk about is Kaleo.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. We for those that are getting the video along with the podcast episode, we did. So maybe my suspense wasn't really as suspenseful as I thought it was. We'll have to do the network thing where we like tape up brand names. But no, this is perfect, and we'll get as we go through this. I'm going to compliment you time and time again for understanding the assignment, Rick. I think you definitely you picked songs that I think show the range of this artist, show the depth of his lyrical capability, the way he arranges songs. I think that everything brings something a little bit different. And I know I have so many questions, so I'm super excited to get into it. So let's start with your very first track. Tell us the very first song that you picked from Kaleo and sort of why you chose this one as kind of the first entry song into this playlist.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got all of that out of the playlist that I provided. I'm glad to hear that. I
I
love it when
did.
people get turned on by Kaleo. Sometimes when we're at concerts, I feel like we're ambassadors for him. And I'm kind of surprised sometimes by how few people seem to really know of him. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here and happy to do this. To be honest with you, I can't remember the exact um, playlist order, but I
So
think it was I Can't Go
I
On
can't
Without You.
I can't go on without
I
you.
Can't
Yeah,
Go On
that's the
Without
first
You. I
track.
didn't want to. There's one song that everyone knows that you know by Kaleo, so I obviously didn't want to, put that on the playlist. But whenever I'm talking to someone saying, "Oh, we're going to go see Kaleo," or "We just saw Kaleo," or whatever, and they kind of look at me like, "Kaleo, who's Kaleo?" And all I have to do is say, "Way down we go, go,
Yeah.
go," and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that," because that's like the only song they play on the radio
Yeah.
or where you get your music. So hopefully, these 4 songs will kind of open you up a little bit more to Kaleo, their repertoire. And I chose I Can't Go On Without You because I wanted a kind of a dichotomy of songs from them. And I
Right.
think it's one of the most uh, angsty in a lost love way. That's what it's about. It's a guy and his woman's leaving him, and he's singing about it. And it starts with him whistling. And when I say
Yes.
him, I'm talking about Jokul Johansson. This is an Icelandic band. All the members are from Iceland. 3 of them met in elementary school and have been playing together ever since. So Yakul goes by JJ. He's a lead singer
Yes.
and get one of the guitar players. They're a 5-piece band. And I chose that because it starts out with just a great open of him whistling. And the guy's a
Loved it.
fantastic whistler. He can yodel. He's got an incredible falsetto. He's got that angsty rock and roll kind of grungy sound as well. So he's really got a wide range of what he can do. And the song just kind of builds and builds and builds until you get to the last refrain where he's just belting it out. I can't go on with, and it just, I mean, it's just so intense. And then,
It's so intense. Like that's a note that I made. I sort of concur with you that I love that whistling opening. It sets the mood immediately. And when you talk about him being angsty too, another note that I made about this, I do this a lot on the show where I'll compare artists to other artists that I think other people might know a little bit more as a point of reference. And his voice, especially in this song, and maybe it was because the angst level is so high, reminded me of like a male Fiona Apple.
okay.
Right? Like it was that,
Yeah.
like it just like reached into your soul in that way to me. Like her songs always like stir something differently when I hear them. And his did the same. And I'm so glad you didn't bring, Way Down, because I think that is a song that everybody knows. And they think like, oh, that's all Kaleo's got. And I think that that's maybe my least favorite. After listening to all of these other songs, I'm like, that's probably my least favorite song that I've heard from them. So it's funny. Like I would be curious to know at some point why that one got released as the single when I think there are so many other songs that are better than that one, this being one of them. But I love to the song has great lyrics. It showcases his great range. And then I really want to talk about this with the song. It ends in such desperation. Like when you get to that very last, like you were saying, like it just feels like he's a desperate man. And then we go back into the whistling. And I'm like, this is perfect. Yeah. This is perfect.
The last lines, what is left but a broken man? Nothing hurts like a woman can.
Yes. Yeah. It's so good. It reminds me of that old, and I made this note too. It reminds me of that old Eagles lyrics about, she can't take you any way you don't already know how to go, from Peaceful Easy Feeling. Like I learned out a long time ago what a woman can do to your soul, but she can't take you any way you don't already know how to go.
That's right. That's
like
a good one. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like that line like hit me like the Eagles line, whenever you're like, oh, it's true. Like I gotta say, we do horrible things to the people that we love sometimes.
I'm not saying that. but he does whistle you out down that the lonely road, and you just kind of feel like, whew, you feel.
It felt like a whole performance, though, in one song. So maybe this is a good time for us, just because you have seen the band live so many times. Tell me what that's like, what that live concert experience. I imagine it must be. I mean, maybe this is hyperbole, but I think it must be kind of cathartic. Like he goes through so many emotions, and his voice and the musicality of the songs is so powerful. Like, tell me what a live concert experience is like with Kaleo.
Well, I think like any great concert that you go to and performance that you see, it's a, there's crescendos, there's, slow parts, there's, feeling, then there's punch you in the gut, rock and roll, thumping, sort of stuff. So, they do a great job of that. And, they typically, they've got a new song called Lonely Cowboy. They usually open without, and it's kind of an acoustic, what it's like to be a lonely cowboy song. So I would recommend, listening to that as well. But the concerts are incredible. And I think, we built up last year. I mean, that's, when we really, started hitting it hard. And my wife, Lene, is primarily responsible for this. And what we're kind of doing, these days is not a vacation or going to a concert, but a concertcation. And building a vacation around a concert, a band that we like to see in beautiful, iconic locations. So we've been very fortunate to be able to do that over the last couple of years. And like you said, we've seen Kaleo 7 times at 7 just amazing locations. So they are not overly productive in what they do. They've got some video screens and stuff, but it's really about, that connection and really your connection with JJ and his voice. And when you hear this guy live and just the tonations that he goes through. I've looked over several times at my wife and just seen goosebumps, on her arms, and
Oh,
you feel it on the back of your neck, and I think he's better. I think he sounds better live than recorded.
I was wondering about that because the second track that you chose for us, which is a song called No Good, from the same album as the first track, that his first album, the AB album from 2016. And this song has a totally different vibe from the first song, even though they're on the same album. This one is a banger, a banger. I love it. It immediately like took me into like the land of the Black Keys a little bit,
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
so that I went to look and see if Dan Auerbach produced it.
yeah,
He
yeah.
produced so much music that came out around that time that I'm like, I wonder if this is if like Dan Auerbach's tied to the production somehow. He's not,
Okay.
but it definitely sounded like I've had that Black Keys feel to me a
Yeah,
little bit too.
yeah,
So I was like the clapping and a cappella vibe when they sing the verse the second time was like a chef's kiss. This is another example, I think, of how well this band arranges their songs. I think this song is arranged so beautifully, which is crazy to me because I'm usually a common complaint I have on the show is when a song repeats the same verse twice. I'm like, really? You couldn't come up with a second verse for us? But this one feels so unique again because of sort of like the clapping and the a cappella in the background. It feels just again like you're just almost at a revival. If I'm
yeah,
not being
yeah.
too, exaggerative here, like I think that it just like yeah, it feels like this one is a song that like the energy seeing this one live must be insane. The guitar riffs, I mean, talk to me about No Good.
Yeah, so yeah, everything you said. I think there's even some maybe Jack White, kind of in there with some of his,
Yeah.
the sound of his voice and stuff. But man, this one, you just let it go. This is, get out there. And if you aren't dancing or you aren't standing on your feet, then you shouldn't be at the concert when they're playing this song. We stand up the whole time anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think it's just letting go of yourself.
Okay.
It's about temptation and releasing yourself to that temptation, and then what happens, and it's just a rolling, thumping, feel it in your chest, from the bass and the guitar riffs, and won't do you no good
I
if
was
you
going to
don't
say,
mind. Hell, I never mind. It's
it
just
kind of made me want to go make some bad choices.
It could. I know. That's right. When we were, my wife and I kind of sing to each other, and we're like, "Kiss your baby goodbye." We're like, "Oh wait, no, 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 don't do that." But
Don't do that. Don't.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So
It's not directed at you, sweetheart. Not
yeah,
directed
right,
at you.
right. So it's just a really fun song for me. I'm a rock and roller, rock and roll guy, and it's just thumps and moves along, and boom, boom, boom. So it's just a
So
great
good.
party song. Yeah.
When did you first hear this artist? Was it like the rest of us with Way Down We Go? Like, is that the first time you heard, or how did you find Kaleo, and what like did you connect immediately, or did it take a minute?
Well, funny enough, I think the time that we first saw him. It was in 2017 in a magical place. We were at the Ride Festival at the back of Telluride Valley,
That's
Colorado.
right.
Beautiful mountains, beautiful day. They were opening for Beck, which I had never
Yeah.
seen before. So that was going to be a great show just because Beck was going to be there playing, and it was. But they opened for them, and we knew Way Down We Go. Everyone knows that or knew that at the time. But once we heard the full concert and their performance, it was like, yeah, they're our next new band that we're going to start listening to and following. And we didn't know we were going to chase them around the country and the world like we have. But it was obvious that they were going to be high on my rotation list, and they only had one album out at that time,
Yeah.
A/B. So there really weren't a whole lot of songs, but they within that album, like you said earlier, that they've got the punch you in the face rock and roll to the leave you crying on the floor love ballad, lost love ballad. So there's really just a lot of different variety in there, and we were
Yeah, there
hooked.
is
We
a
were
lot of
hooked right away.
space.
Yeah.
That I do. That's so funny. It didn't connect to me that that was the first time you guys saw them. I remember you seeing them in Telluride. And listeners, for those of you that don't know, we all happened to be in Telluride during this festival. And so Patrick and I were coming in on the motorcycle, and we didn't get there in time for the concert. So you guys had already left for the show, and we ended up seeing you a little bit later. And I can remember you being really excited about this new artist, but it didn't click to me that that was the very first time that you were seeing them until you just told me. So we were there. I was
Yeah,
there when
yeah.
this
So
love.
close, so close. Almost
I
made it in
know.
time.
It's so nice. We did. We almost rolled in time for the show, but
Yeah.
we
You're
we
like, oh
didn't
yeah,
quite
sounds nice,
there.
sounds nice, but it was a long drive, so we'll we'll
Well,
catch you
and it
next
was
time.
great.
Yeah.
It was great because you introduced us not only to two of our favorite things in the world now. You have credit for introducing us to Telluride and now Kaleo too.
We'll
So
take it.
we're forever indebted. Well, let's move on to this third track because this one ended up being my very favorite. I honestly, since you sent this song over, I've probably listened to it 20 or 30 times. I cannot stop listening to this song. I love it so much. This third song that you picked to introduce us to your favorite artist, Kaleo, is a song called I Want More from the Surface Sounds album, which came out in 2021. I mean, I'm going to turn it over to you right away, or else I'll spend 30 more minutes talking about just this song. I love this song. Tell me about this one.
Well, it's one of my wife's favorite as well. So, I think y'all
Yay.
both have exquisite taste. So,
We
and
do.
one of
We
mine,
do.
it really is. And, it's a beautiful love song. It's a melancholy song about a couple that have had some trials, some tribulations, but don't want to give up on each other, their love for each other, and want to come back around to what they had once upon a time. And it's again starts with some beautiful whistling. Let me back
Mm-hmm.
up. We've had a chance once here in Austin last year to do a meet and greet, and then once at
Oh.
Red Rocks to do a meet and greet. And you get to meet JJ, and he is just the sweetest, nicest guy. Has a big beaming smile on his face. You get to go up, he shakes your hand, he talks to you, he listens to you. You get to take your picture with him, and he puts his arms around you. So it's just he's very welcoming, embracing, and it's his smile just sucks you in. So obviously, I like that. My wife loved it, as well.
Yeah.
And
He's not a bad looking fella. I'll
he's
just
all
throw that
right.
in there.
He's all right. He's all right. I didn't see her for 3 days after that concert, but she said she was having a great time. So, whatever,
Right.
go have fun. Um, so at the meet and greet, the two times that we've done it, this is the song that he performs,
Wow.
and it's the first time here in Austin. There were maybe 25 of us just
Oh my
standing
gosh.
right there in front of him. At Red Rocks, there was probably 120, 150, people. But
Still.
again, he's just right there in front, and he brings out one of his band members named Thor, who plays the mandolin as well as a harmonica, and I think he does a slide guitar for him as well. But the two of them come out, Thor on his mandolin, JJ on his resonator guitar, and he just does a beautiful acoustic version of this, and it's amazing. And he whistles, and it's just like, wow, this is, it's as good as you think it ever would be. I mean, it sounds just as good as the recording. Better really, because you're right there with them. So
You're right there.
you're right
And it's
there.
such an intimate song, to be in such an intimate setting. I feel like I would cry immediately.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the tears I wouldn't be able to hold, like thinking about it. Like
Mhm.
I'm thinking about what that must have been like, and almost like can feel myself welling up. Like this song is just, and maybe it's because it is so relatable. Like, you and Lene, like Patrick and I have been in a relationship for a very long time. And you get to a point where of course you're going to have this series of amazing memories and a beautiful life that you've built and really hard times that you've come through as well.
Right.
And I think you do, like you wonder sometimes, like, will it ever be back like it was in the beginning, or is there something different that I need to be looking forward to, or what is it that's sustaining this relationship? And I felt like this song kind of forced you to ask that question, like if you're choosing to spend a lifetime with a person. Well, why? And I think the answer to why is because you do want more. You want more than just yourself. You want another person that you're building this life with. You want to grow and expand as a communicator, as a parent, as, a compromiser, like all of the things that you have to do when you're in a long-term relationship. And so I just thought this one, it hit exactly right. And it's a beautiful song, like musically, lyrically, it's a gorgeous song. And then again, I made a note about the whistling as well. And it's totally different though. It's a
Right.
completely different vibe. Whenever we talked about the whistling in the first song in I Can't Go On Without You, it's very like funeral march a little bit, but the whistling in this song, I feel like is very like Seven Dwarfs,
And
it's a little
birds
bit
and Snow
cheerier.
White, and yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is
So,
actually birds in the track that you hear, whistling as well.
yeah,
So it does have that lovely, melancholy but longing, and what we need is
beautiful.
what we once had, and like hearkening back to the good times and not giving up, and like you said, growing. Because if you
Yeah.
give up, you don't grow. If you persevere, you stay together, you remember the good, you learn from the bad, and you grow. And I think you nailed it when you said that.
Yeah, and I think the song nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it said to me, was just like there is something in that commitment to choosing to go on, and something that's not even conscious choice, I think, when you're in a long-term relationship and you truly believe you're with your person, you are willing to do anything to make that work, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that somebody that's in a terrible relationship needs to stay with somebody that is not kind to them, all of those things. I'm talking about sort of just the general day in, day out of a long-term relationship. And I think that this song just captured all of that so well. I loved it. Listeners, if you don't listen to all 4 songs, and you should, but if you only listen to one, start there, because I can't imagine somebody not loving this song. I Want More from the Surface Sounds album from 2021. So, so good. And now we're going to round out this playlist. Rick, we're going to bring it on home with another banger, another like awesome song that was totally different, as rocking and as like get up on your feet and clap and dance as No Good, but completely different sound, I think. So for your very last trick, you chose your very last pick. No tricks
I've
today.
got tricks. You
Your
want to see
very
some
last pick.
tricks?
I know. We'll save that. We'll do the
Okay.
magic later. That's the other thing we do on our Superfan episodes is a little bit of magic. Yeah, all of our well, you did choose a song for your last pick called "Rock and Roller," and this was released as a single along with "Lonely Cowboy," the track that you also mentioned, and I believe that's coming on their Mixed Emotions album, which comes out this year. Has that come out yet,
Yeah,
or
they
is it
they actually,
forthcoming?
yeah, they did. They introduced it right before we saw them in Red Rock. So it was like May 8th. I
Okay,
think they played one show in Aspen, which was the official release of Mixed Emotions,
okay.
and then they've been touring like crazy this whole year. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, and like I referenced Black Keys a little bit earlier when we were talking about No Good. I felt like this one, I got a lot of the band Jet
Oh,
too. Do
yeah.
you remember
Uh-huh.
that the
Sure.
band
Yeah.
Jet from the early 2000s?
Are you gonna be my
Um,
girl? Yeah.
yeah, this kind of reminded me a little bit of
Yeah.
that. So I was getting some of those influences as well. But again, their guitarist is insane. Like the guitar riffs in this one, insane also, as good as No Good. And this feels like an encore song. Like I feel like this is one that maybe they'll use as like an encore or a closer, because this feels like the one that you want to like leave folks with. Like you can't want more after this, I would imagine. Like they've left everything on the stage with this song.
Yeah.
Is that
It's
right?
it's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It's the one that they typically close with. They'll do Way Down We
Yeah.
Go, and then they'll do Rock and Roller. Just to
Yep.
leave you, like, let's go. Yeah, I want to go. I want to show my rock and roller. You leave the concert
Yeah.
just pumped.
It's so
So,
good.
I was trying to, again, show kind of both sides of Kaleo.
Hmm.
And there's a lot in between too. So I would say, just listen to their albums. So you're going to find something, no matter what kind of music you like, you're going to find something that they do that hits with you. I still want to be a rock and roller, you know. You know
Would
that,
you
right?
recommend? I know you
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
I know you
yeah.
do.
It's,
Would you recommend people taking the albums in order, or does it matter? Do you think that there's
Uh,
one that stands above the others?
I think to me, it's probably Surface Sounds is my
Hmm.
favorite. Although I think this last song, Rock and Roller, they played it in Telluride in 2017, but they've had some
Mm.
copyright issues or something with it, so they weren't able to actually release it until this last album. So yeah, I wouldn't. I'd just say dig into it.
I just get
just
in.
start listening to it, and it'll take you, highs and lows, ups and downs, rock and roll, love songs, ballads. They have a couple songs that they sing in their native Icelandic, and
Oh,
some of the,
wow.
one or two of those is some real heavy, like foreboding, grungy, kind of stuff. So they're really all over the board, and this is the one that they leave you with at the end of the concerts. And when we were on stage at Red Rocks, you
Oh my
know,
gosh.
just got through hugging JJ, getting our picture taken. I was so close to belting out the last, "Woo, I said my
Yeah, yeah,
experience, rock and roller," but I
yeah.
didn't. And I regret
Uh,
that, man. That's like a huge regret. If I ever get on stage with them again, I'm going to just say, "Sorry, JJ, I got to do this," and let it go. Because I
you
want
have
to
to.
be
I
a
do.
rock
I
and
love
roller.
the little like woo, 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 like at the end.
Yeah,
I noticed that
yeah,
too. It was very
yeah.
it feels again just like
It's
it feels
fun.
like he's free, like
Hmm.
just on the stage, like just goes into the zone or when he's recording and it just all comes out. Like I was waiting to hear like what crazy sounds am I going to hear next, but they don't feel performative or contrived. It feels like it just fits in with the song. And so I love that like that part stood out to you as well
Yeah.
because it's
Oh,
something
yeah.
that I really noticed when listening to the song. Well, you've thrown out a couple of the venues that you guys went to, but I would be remiss if we did not like go through the list of some of the amazing places you've been able to see this artist play. And you mentioned Red Rocks, you mentioned Telluride. I know this because I've spoken to you about it. You guys also, I believe, saw him at the Gorge. Is that
That's
right?
the last one. We went to Dave Matthews. He does his Labor Day weekend, and it's 3 days at the Gorge,
Oh,
which I don't know if how many people have been there, but it is
Uh,
like another
it's a
world.
dream venue. Any music lover,
Yeah.
like go. It used to be Red Rocks, I feel like, which is still a great venue, but I feel like the Gorge is Mecca, really, for music lovers.
It's a journey. It's a destination. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's on the Columbia River Gorge. It's beautiful. But when you're there, it's because everyone wants to make that journey, and be there and commit to 3 days of, Dave Matthews. So that was the last time we saw him. They opened for Dave. And again, I feel like we're, ambassadors for Kaleo because people were there to see Dave Matthews. And
Right.
Lene and I were down in the pits because we wanted to be up close. We didn't, buy seats or anything. We wanted to be right there. And people could feel, I think, the palpitation, our excitement about seeing
Yeah.
Kaleo, and they were just kind of like looking around, who Kaleo, and where, and they're like, oh, okay, okay. And about halfway through their performance, people were coming up to us and saying, "How old is JJ? Where are they from again?" And they were asking us all these questions. And once they were done, people were like, "Oh, thank you guys so much for talking about them and making sure that we were, tuned in and not, farting around and getting drinks and stuff like that." So, I don't know why more people don't know about them, but I think if you sit down and you take a little bit of time, you listen to them. JJ is an incredible vocalist. Like I said, falsettos, that deep growly whistle, yodel. My Fair Lady is another one I think you would like a lot. Kind of a love song as well. Alter Egos, another one of those thumpers that runs along. So, yeah. So where were we? The Gorge. Yeah. So we saw him last at the Gorge. Beautiful. It was actually a little hot up there, and they had a bunch of wildfires going on, but it was great. And then to see Dave
It's part of
Matthews,
the rock and roll
part of the rock and
experience.
roll experience. You got to sweat a little bit, right?
Right. You got to do it.
Blood,
Well,
sweat,
especially
blood,
here.
sweat, and beers.
That's us. That's well, and in Austin here, we're old school ACL Fest folks, so we know about sweating it out for a 3-day music festival. It's
Absolutely,
kind of in our DNA here. But
absolutely. Yeah.
I think Rick, thank you so much first off for joining me and sharing. everything that you know about Kaleo. This is the whole point of this show. And I feel like that this was, we kind of kicked off this concept with episode 1 with Matt Sidholm, who's one of the other hosts on the network. He's a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So he sort of helped us sort through these 80 plus tracks that Springsteen released this summer with a 4-song playlist. Yeah, I know. It was tricky. But I think that this is like a perfect continuation of that, because I think I'm a perfect example, right? I only knew Way Down We Go. I'd sort of written it off as like not for me. And then I went through this 4-song playlist and could not get enough. I, like you, ended up loving that second album. I just thought it was so beautiful. I thought that it had, it was very dynamic, but that A/B album is great too. It really is hard to pick. So I, like you, encourage the listeners to go in. And if you've written them off because you've only heard Way Down We Go, like, please open the door again to Kaleo. I really think that there is some fantastic music here. I think that one song is not representative of everything else they have going on. And so I'm so glad. I feel like this episode accomplished exactly what I wanted to accomplish with it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen.
And listeners, if you like this format as much as I do, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can DM me on Instagram at JennJenn1020. That's JENNJENN1020. And let me know if you're liking this Superfan format. And if you're a Superfan yourself, also let me know. Perhaps we'll have you on an episode of What Are You Listening To, Superfan, as well. Well, I'll be back next week with an all-new episode. And until then, to stay informed on all things Super Awesome Mix and What Are You Listening To, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. Thanks for listening, and please join me again next week to find your new favorite song.